Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and it is already so close to the start of the 2024 fantasy football season. Week 1 is just a couple of days away, starting off on Thursday Night Football. And in today's video, we're going to break down every single matchup from Week 1 and tell you whether you should start or sit the running backs in all of those games. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. And if you'd like access to my weekly rankings, as well as an answer to every single question you may have, make sure you guys check out the Patreon, link in the video description, for $7.50 a month. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 1 running back start or sit decisions. We begin with the first game of the 2024 season, and that is the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, the back-to-back Super Bowl defending champions in Kansas City. Now, this is a matchup where you want to be starting both of the lead backs. Now, you drafted Derrick Henry and Isaiah Pacheco in the second round. If magically everything went right and you were able to get Henry or Pacheco in the third round, that would be just awesome. But a majority of you guys had to pay second round draft capital for Derrick Henry as well as Isaiah Pacheco. So when you draft a guy inside of the second round, you are going to start them in week number 1. There is no reason in week number 1 to get too cute to try to completely and utterly overthink things. Even if you don't really love the matchup, in week number 1, you want to be starting your studs. And in terms of not loving the matchup, do I think this is a perfect matchup for Derrick Henry? The answer to that would be no. I don't think this is the greatest matchup on paper based upon how we saw the Chiefs run defense last season, but frankly, I don't give a damn when it comes to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in the NFL, in my opinion, and any given game, this is a dude who could easily run for over 100 yards and score multiple touchdowns. You would be absolutely crazy. You would be ludicrous to sit him in the NFL kickoff game here up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Justice Hill is his backup while Keaton Mitchell is still on IR. And while I don't think Justice Hill is all that bad of a player, when Derrick Henry is healthy, you are not going to be starting Justice Hill. Isaiah Pacheco is a start as well. Just like we talked about with Derrick Henry, this matchup also isn't the greatest for Isaiah Pacheco, but also just like Henry, you would have to be absolutely crazy to sit Isaiah Pacheco. There are so many guys to worry about on the Chiefs that I really just don't think the Baltimore Ravens are going to be able to make Isaiah Pacheco the focal point of their defensive efforts, right? When you have Travis Kelce, who in my opinion is the best tight end in the NFL, you have the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, throwing the ball to Rashee Rice as well as rookie Xavier Worthy. I think it carves off a very clear path towards Isaiah Pacheco having a very solid game here. Samaje Perine comes in from the Denver Broncos, and according to everything that I have read, Samaje Perine will play in this game. It'll be interesting to see how much he cuts into the potential pass catching upside of Isaiah Pacheco, but ultimately when Pacheco is healthy, you will not be starting Samaje Perine in his first game when he just arrived on the Kansas City Chiefs roughly 5 seconds ago. Next up, we move to Friday Night Football in Brazil. The Green Bay Packers at the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to get to see a whole ton of BBLs live on television on the Peacock watching this game. Josh Jacobs as well as Saquon Barkley are going to be starts in this matchup, which should be a shock to absolutely nobody. No one would be shocked that you would want to start Josh Jacobs as well as Saquon Barkley. First, we'll start off with the technical away team here, even though both of these teams are away. Josh Jacobs with Marshawn Lloyd coming off of the injury. I really feel like we are going to potentially see Jacobs get fed like a fat kid at a buffet in this game. While I do believe that the game plan for the Packers won't be the same as with the Las Vegas Raiders, where they just want to give Josh Jacobs 8 gazillion touches every single game, I think they're going to look to utilize the other running backs behind Jacobs, but with Marshawn Lloyd hurt, I think they're going to ease him in. We know what Matt LaFleur does. He likes to use the just the tip technique to ease guys in. He did the exact same thing with Aaron Jones last season, and I think that is going to lead to a whole lot of Josh Jacobs in this game. Now, the matchup up against the Eagles' run D isn't the best, but Jacobs is both legit on the ground as well as in terms of pass catching, and this game has the ability to score a ton of points. You're definitely going to be firing up Josh Jacobs. Marshawn Lloyd coming off the injury. Again, knowing what we know about Matt LaFleur, he's likely going to just ease Marshawn Lloyd in, so you definitely don't want to go near starting him. Saquon Barkley was a must-start every single week, even on the Giants, when the Giants were a flaming pile of dog shit. So you better believe he is a must-start in Philadelphia. I know there will be games where he gets his touchdown vultured by Jalen Hurts, or maybe one of the other running backs like Kenneth Gainwell or Will Shipley, but you drafted Saquon Barkley early on for a reason. He is a must-start just like Josh Jacobs, and Kenneth Gainwell should be chilling on your bench if you even want to roster him, because I honestly think Will Shipley will play a role as well, and there probably isn't even a crystal clear running back 2 in Philadelphia. Moving to game number 3, the beginning of the 1 p.m. slate on Sunday. It's red zone time, and we begin with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I do suspect that Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited, will end up leading the Pittsburgh Steelers to try to run the ball a ton. So as long as they aren't getting bent over a table and pounded relentlessly in this game by Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons, we should see a run-heavy attack by the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. And with Jaylen Warren being banged up, Najee should be a low-end to middle running back 2. I don't really expect this crazy explosive game out of Najee Harris because we really haven't seen that since his fucking rookie season, but I do think he should have a decent enough game to where you feel pretty confident in starting him. Now, Jaylen Warren is dealing with a hamstring injury, but he did end up practicing yesterday on Monday. So to me, it feels as though he will be good to go. Now, the question really at hand here is how much usage is he going to get? Are they going to limit him in terms of touches, or are they going to throw him out there and say, you know what, he's good to go, and he's going to see his normal amount of touches? Now, if that is the case, I still think Najee Harris will be fine, but he will go from being a guy that I definitely kind of liked in the middle of that running back 2 range to becoming a guy that is a lower end running back 2 or a high end running back 3. I think up against the Falcons defense, though, even if Jaylen Warren does play, which is my expectation, I definitely think Najee Harris should be in your lineup. For Jaylen Warren, like I said, coming off the injury, those injuries can flare up again. With Jaylen Warren already not being in the best case scenario here with Najee Harris being the guy, I just don't really want to start Jaylen Warren here. And I don't think this is going to be the game where Jaylen Warren breaks out and becomes the clear RB1 on the team due to his health. So for the Falcons, Bijan Robinson is going to channel all of that anger that has been boiling up inside of him up against Arthur Smith and lay a smackdown brother Hulk a maniac style. He is going to slay the Steelers defense like Anakin slayed the younglings in my favorite Star Wars movie, The Revenge of the Sith Episode 3. Robinson is a guy that I think could be the running back 1 at the end of the season in fantasy football, the number 1 overall pick in 2025 fantasy football drafts. So you should definitely start him this week, and I think he could easily be the running back 1 on the week. Tyler Algier is going to be a sit. I know there's a lot of speculation on his workload because there's been some conflicting reports. Some reports that Bijan Robinson's going to be in the McCaffrey role, seeing a gazillion touches, then other reports that Tyler Algier is going to sneak his way in there and get a decent amount of touches. Frankly, while that is definitely an interesting talking point, something we'll probably talk about going into week number 2, you're not starting Tyler Algier with so many question marks on how many touches he will receive. Next game here on Sunday will be the Arizona Cardinals at the Buffalo Bills. Now, James Conner is a middling running back 2 to a solid running back 1 when he is healthy, right? Worst case scenario, he's like the running back 18 to 20. The team, though, will probably be getting spit roasted here, but with Marvin Harrison Jr. now on the team and a fully healthy Kyler Murray, if this game does end up staying close, Connor could be a top 12 running back. Now, is that the most likely scenario? Of course not. The more likely scenario would be Josh Allen and friends running an absolute train on the Arizona Cardinals. But even if the game plan for the Cardinals goes kind of south, I think they're going to try to run the ball early on, and James Conner's a competent pass-catching back, a very solid pass-catching back. So I'm going to rank him anywhere in the range of running back 18 to 22 on the week. Now, Trey Benson, the backup, is a sit. We saw one preseason game where Trey Benson looked like he was running in molasses. He looked like they tied 1,000 pounds to each of his feet, like he was stuck in concrete. Then we saw another game where he looked a little bit better. Ultimately, though, I think when James Conner is healthy, he's the clear workhorse back on this team. Trey Benson is definitely much more of a handcuff that we probably won't be talking about too often unless James Conner gets hurt, knock on wood. James Cook for the Buffalo Bills is a must start. I really think James Cook could be a top 5, top 3 running back up against this trash-ass Arizona Cardinals defense that is absolutely cheeks up against the run. I think he is close to being a lock to be a top 12 running back on the week, and I think he could flirt with being inside of the top 5. Last season, there was a lot of trials and tribulations for James Cook as he was essentially iced out Shedeur Sanders style out of the end zone. They were holding him back from the end zone. He just frankly could not fucking score enough touchdowns. But this year, I think they're going to let the man loose. He's going to score more touchdowns. He's a solid pass catching back. And once the new offensive coordinator took over about halfway into last season when they cut bait on the original offensive coordinator, a lot of things started going the way of James Cook, who I believe is the clear guy in Buffalo. If something was to happen to him, knock on wood, Ray Davis would be relevant. But as of right now, I think James Cook has a pretty solid stranglehold over this backfield. Game number 5 here, the Atlanta Titans, the Tennessee Titans at the Chicago Bears. If you guys have enjoyed today's video thus far, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you money. And whether you are new to the channel or not, make sure you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So the Titans at the Bears. This is a game where we got 2 committees that I don't want to play with yet, right? Let's see what happens here. Is it Tony Pollard? Is it Tajay Spears for the Titans? Or is this a double-headed backfield of death for fantasy football where both of them are seeing a very close split share, and based upon the matchup, maybe some matchups where you think they're going to be down, you'd rather start Spears because he's got better pass catching ability, or maybe you think the Titans are going to win the game, so you go with Tony Pollard because if they're leading, they're going to want to churn the rock with Tony Pollard. We'll see what happens. I think either of these guys could be very useful for fantasy football down the line, down the stretch, right? But in week number 1, I would rather see what these guys do than play them on my team and end up feeling incredibly saddened if you start Pollard and Tajay Spears is out there looking amazing, or vice versa, right? So Tony Pollard, Spears for the Titans are sits. It's the exact same thing for the Chicago Bears. Now, DeAndre Swift gets passed around like a fucking blunt at a party. He's on the Lions, then he's on the Eagles, now he is on the Chicago Bears, all within 3 years. Kind of concerning in my opinion. Talented player, talented pass catcher. Caleb Williams at USC, not notoriously known to check the ball down at a very high rate. They have DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen. So there's a lot of weapons there that are going to need to get fed to where I think DeAndre Swift is going to fall out of favor. The preseason week 1 game where Swift and Herbert were playing, Swift had a nice play. It was a nice screen pass catch. But outside of that, it was the Khalil Herbert show. So while I think Swift's a very talented player, all of the signs from the offseason are pointing towards this being a committee, and while I don't think the Titans have the best defense on earth, I'm definitely not, or did I say the Texans? I meant the Titans. I don't know if I did or not, but if the Titans are not the best defense on earth, I'm still going to stay away from Swift and Herbert. I think the Bears receivers might light it up in this game like some fireworks. Shout out Jason Pierre-Paul, but frankly, Swift, Herbert, they're sits. Same with Pollard and Spears. And we will reevaluate once it comes to week number 2. Game number 6 here, we got the New England Deflatriots at the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, with Ramondre Stevenson, my opinion on him is pretty similar to what I just said about James Conner, but James Conner has been a lot more consistent for a longer period of time. Stevenson is a solid player, but he is held at the mercy of his team. If the Bengals come in like a bat out of hell and deliver that knockout Mike Tyson blow to the Patriots early, you could end up very, very sad if you start Stevenson, right? But early on in the game, I think Stevenson will get enough usage to be a low-end running back too. I don't really expect anything special here, assuming, and an assumption makes an ass out of you and me sometimes, that Gibson doesn't completely siphon and suck away all of the targets from Ramondre Stevenson. Antonio Gibson's a talented player, never really found his footing in Washington. Now he's in New England, another pretty mid offense. And by mid, I mean fucking dick cheese offense in reality. I think that Antonio Gibson's a solid player, but Gibson's also a great pass catcher, so it's kind of unknown right now what his workload would be. Plus, I'm not starting, even if he gets a decent enough workload, I'm probably not starting the running back 2 on the fucking Patriots against the Bengals. That's just a little bit silly. Now, Zach Moss is a very low-end start, in my opinion. Now, the Patriots lose Matthew Judon to the Falcons, and they were a team last year, though, that was pretty solid against the run. I don't love Moss this week. I'm not going to sit here and give him the Sukalamink, the Gawk 9000 special, the fucking Hawk Tua here, but I think if your back is against the wall, I would start Zach Moss because I think Zach Moss is a very talented player. Now, the game script could heavily lead to Chase Brown having a good game, a lot of dump-offs, but it seems like the team wants Moss to be the guy. Moss can also catch passes, so I'm rolling him out there. But again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like you need to start Zach Moss. If you don't start Zach Moss, you have 0 IQ, right? Like those fucking fantasy football TikTok clips, right? So I think Zach Moss is a talented player. I don't love the matchup. Worst case scenario, he's in, but for a lot of you guys, he should not be in your lineup. Chase Brown is going to be a sit in this game. Next up, we move to the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Joe Mixon has a chef's kiss Manufuik matchup here up against the Indianapolis Colts, and I think that Joe Mixon could end up as a top 5 running back on the week. Now, Joe Mixon was banged up for a lot of the offseason process, so they might use that just the tip technique that we discussed with the Green Bay Packers, but I don't think they're going to full on do that. I think maybe they'll go 75% in, and maybe Joe Mixon doesn't get his, what I assume will be a normal allotment of a shit ton of touches on the Houston Texans, because Dameon Pierce, who's the running back 2, he's an obvious sit. Isn't very good. I think Cam Akers might end up being the running back 2. So this is a great matchup for Mixon. I won't get overzealous and actually rank him inside the top 5. He'll be ranked inside the top 12, but he definitely can rip off a huge performance here. And if the Texans end up fucking stomping on the grave of the Colts here, which is entirely possible, they're going to run the ball a lot late with Joe Mixon, just giving him some extra brownie points. Now, when it comes to the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, I really liked in fantasy football drafts. I really thought, and I still believe, right? It's not like my mind has fucking changed 6 days later, right? From when I was just recently talking about Jonathan Taylor, or even yesterday. I think I talked about him in yesterday's video. I love Jonathan Taylor a bunch. I think him and Anthony Richardson are going to be a nice tag team duo like the fucking Dudley boys. But what I will say is up against the Texans, you might want to backtrack a little bit. Now, I'm not going to back all the way out of my spot, but I'm going to back up slightly. Because while the matchup isn't the most ideal, Jonathan Taylor is a very competent running back, one of the best running backs in the NFL, and I think he will get a lot of touches in this game, get a couple dump-offs. Jonathan Taylor could easily finish inside the top 5 as well here, but again, can't really love the player in this matchup due to the matchup. But again, you drafted Jonathan Taylor in the first or second round. You're going to fucking play him. Trey Sermon, going to spread the good word in this matchup. Solid backup, but nothing really relevant for this game if Jonathan Taylor's able to stay healthy. Knock on wood. Next up, we got my game of the week, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Miami Dolphins. Why is that the game of the week? Because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and every single game they play is my game of the week because it's the game that matters most to me. Now, if the Miami Dolphins were playing up against the school of blind and deaf, I would still say that was my game of the week because I love the Dolphins that much. I don't care if it's a game that I project for the Dolphins to beat the ever-living dog shit out of a team, or if it's a game where I think it's going to be close, it's still my matchup of the week. So Jaguars at Miami Dolphins. This could potentially be a negative game script for Travis Etienne, as the Miami Dolphins might bend him over the table here. But Etienne is involved in the receiving game, so I am not really panicking here too much. Like, even if this is a game where the Jaguars are losing, Lawrence could just dump the ball off a bunch to Etienne to make up for it. And plus, Etienne's early game usage when the game's a little bit closer potentially should be very solid. I know there's been talks in the offseason of, oh, we need to use Bigsby more. Tank Bigsby looks like trash, dude. He just did not look very good last season. Maybe he had a rookie slump and he's going to have this sophomore breakout. But frankly, I don't think so. Even up against the Dolphins defense, that is just completely rebuilt, shape-shifted from last season. For the Dolphins, Devon Achane, Devon 2 Chains, as well as Raheem Mostert are going to be guys that you very evidently want in your lineup this week. I personally expect Achane and Mostert to form an Eiffel Tower over this defense. Achane clearly going to be the guy that's ranked higher. You drafted him in the second round, and you drafted Mostert a little bit, or in some cases, a lot later. Achane, while he's never going to get that crazy Christian McCaffrey workload, right, where Mostert's not even touching the fucking field, he's going to get a lot of touches. This is a game that they should be up in late, being able to run out the clock late. And any given game, Achane could score 25 or 30 points. Again, let's not demean Raheem Mostert, though, because he's going to get touches. He could sneak into the end zone multiple times as well. Achane's clear top 12. Mostert definitely inside of my top 24. Next matchup here, we got the Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints, a matchup that on paper might be a absolute fucking snooze fest. I've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. I talked about in the defense video how this is a game that kind of has that smell on it. It reeks of like a 10-7 game or 14-13 and someone misses a fucking extra point or something like that. And while I say that, right, this game will end up as an old Western shootout, shout out Arthur Morgan, right, where it's just a back and forth affair. While I love Dave Canales, while I'm very excited to see what Bryce Young does this season, while I'm very excited to see how the Panthers look, I'm not starting Chuba Hubbard here up against that Saints defense. Saints defense, very solid. We could end up, while I do think Hubbard will be the guy, there's still that chance, that percentage of chance, that Miles Sanders ends up cutting enough into this workload to where until Jonathan Brooks returns, you might not even want to start Chuba Hubbard. So week 1 up against the Saints, in what should be a low-scoring game, that is a clear stay away here for Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. If things are absolutely terrible for you, though, there are a lot worse players than Chuba Hubbard, frankly, because, again, I do think he will be the clear lead back on the team. For the Saints, Alvin Kamara was a highly debated player all fantasy football offseason. There were some people that were with me that were banging the drum for Alvin Kamara, that loved the upside due to the fact that Derek Carr will literally close his eyes and dump the ball off to Alvin Kamara 15,000 times a game, right? There were multiple games last season with 10 plus targets. Now they're going up against the Carolina Panthers defense that is pretty trash, pretty bad, no bueno up against the run. And while I don't think Alvin Kamara is going to get a whole lot of points running in this game, more in terms of the check down game, he's definitely a top 12 running back for me on the week. Jamal Williams, the RB2 on the team, Kendre Miller hurt as per usual. Taysom Hill going to get touches as the running back too, probably as well, which makes me not want to start Jamal Williams, but I definitely love Alvin Kamara on the week. This is a must-start running back, in my opinion. Next up, we move to the cold like Minnesota Vikings going up against the New York Football Giants in MetLife on the safest turf to play in the NFL. Wink, wink, wink. But before we get on into the Vikings at the Giants, a amazing matchup, right? The matchup we've all been waiting for. We all waited all fucking winter, the end of the winter, all spring, all summer, to see the Panthers against the Saints and the Vikings against the Giants. But you know what you might actually want to see? Today's partner, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play NFL Pick'em in the whole entire universe, and Underdog has a great offer for you guys today. If you're a first-time depositor using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description, you'll be able to claim your free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You will also receive a free pick of Travis Kelce higher than half of a total yard in week number 1 up against the Baltimore Ravens. All he has to do is get 1 yard and that pick will hit. So you're going to match that with another pick. Now that could be a pick from Thursday's game, Chiefs versus the Ravens. It could be from Friday's game with the Packers going up against the Eagles, or on one of the games on Sunday. Once you go ahead and do that, so for instance, we're to do Isaiah Pacheco higher than 62.5 rushing yards. You match that with the Travis Kelce pick, and you'll receive 3 times what you enter into the pick'em slip. For example, we use Derrick Henry and Pacheco here. You match those two together. You put $15 on this entry, and you'll receive $45. Again, if you're a new user to Underdog Fantasy, make sure you guys use promo code Notorious or click on the link in the video description. Back on into things here again. Shout out Underdog Fantasy. Vikings at Giants. When Aaron Jones was healthy last season, while there wasn't a lot of it, the guy was dominant. He was able to have his way with the defense. No diddy, right? He was having solid performances, ripped off multiple 100-yard games to end last season. Now his season as a whole kind of went down the toilet as, you know, he was hurt, and we talked about the just the tip technique with Matt LaFleur. He was really just edging us, pause, right? He was kind of throwing us around, throwing us for a whirlwind last year, but when healthy, Aaron Jones was solid. The matchup here should be fine enough for Jones to finish as a running back 2. Now, there's obviously some clear downfalls of this plan. For one, the Vikings in the past, very pass heavy. I don't believe that will be the case with mono man Sam Darnold under center, but again, you never know when it comes to Sam Darnold, and Kevin O'Connell, again, very great in terms of passing scheme, right? If Darnold looks like I think he should, the Vikings offense could light up the Giants defense like a fucking Christmas tree. But we know it's Darnold, and that's far from a guarantee. So Jones is a solid running back 2 with solid pass catching ability. Now, Ty Chandler is going to have a role in this offense. It's not like Aaron Jones is going to be the workhorse running back. They're going to be giving touches to Ty Chandler, but I don't think it will be enough for you to want to start him even up against the Giants defense. Devin Singletary will be able to see enough touches in this game to end up as a low-end running back 2 or a high-end running back 3. No one that I would give praises to. Like, it's a lot easier to see a path towards, oh, Aaron Jones rips the Giants defense a new asshole because Aaron Jones is really good. Singletary's pretty solid. He shined in Houston, but there's a big difference between the Texans offense and the Giants offense. It's like one of those Mr. Beast video where it's like $1 island versus $1 billion island, right? It's like going from a fucking Honda Civic, which I drive, it's not all that bad, to going to a Lamborghini, right? It's really, I guess it's the opposite for Jones, right? Because he was on the Lamborghini, he was on the Green Bay Packers, and now he's in a fucking RAV4, which is also a good car, but you guys get the point, right? Or good van, I think, or SUV, whatever the fuck you want to call that. So Devin Singletary should get enough touches, fine matchup. It really just kind of depends. It hinges on, hey, is this game going to be close, or is Sam Darnold going to have his way and have a very good game? Now, Tyrone Tracy suffered a minor ankle injury a few weeks ago, and I do love his value if he's on the waiver wire, because I do think he could overtake Devin Singletary and become the starter. But in week 1, coming off of an injury in a game that you probably don't, you're not starting the number 2 running back on the Giants anyways, but coming off the injury gives him even more question marks. And if he doesn't end up playing, it will end up being Eric Gray as the running back 2 behind Devin Singletary. Game number 11 here, the 4 p.m. slate, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. And I used to wonder a while ago, like, oh, why did the Raiders not play outside? Like, it's probably not that hot there. I went to Las Vegas on my bachelor party, and let me tell you, if you are outside for more than 5 seconds, you will have swamp ass that will scare anyone away from you. It is so fucking hot there. The week I left, I saw a video on Instagram of in front of Caesar's Palace, one of the trees burning. It was on fire. That's how hot it was. It was unbelievably hot. So now I get it. I know it has nothing to do with the actual game because this game is in a dome. For the Chargers, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins are both guys I loved in terms of fantasy drafts at ADP, right? Both late round guys, both have the ability to be the running back one on the team, a team that wants to run the ball gently down the stream. Greg Roman gave nice praises for both of them. He's the offensive coordinator of the Chargers. So it seems like, hey, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, they're going to get a decent amount of touches each, but we kind of want to see it before we do anything, right? We've heard coach speak go very, very wrong before. Now, this could be a Gus Edwards backfield. This could be a Dobbins backfield. This could be a mix of the two, or this could be the dreaded three-headed backfield with Edwards, Dobbins, and Kimani Vidal. If that ends up as the case, you're probably not going to want to start any of these guys going forward unless there is an injury. So let's just see how week one plays out. This is a fine matchup, though I do think the addition of Wilkins with Max Crosby, I mean, it's not necessarily the best matchup ever in my opinion, but if I had a crystal ball and it told me, I rubbed the crystal ball and it said, Nick, Gus Edwards is the clear lead back, then guess what? We're firing up Gus Edwards with supreme confidence. Or, Nick, it's going to be J.K. Dobbins. Then we're very happy, right? But when I rub the crystal ball, I don't see anything. All I see is Edwards and Dobbins both being out there. So, great upside, but in this game, I'm just staying away. Zamir White will be a start here, but he's one of those guys that, isn't like the ideal start, right? It's not a great matchup up against the Chargers defense, and he's another guy that's like Singletary. He's going to get enough volume to be fine, but he will not be ranked inside of the top 24 of my running back rankings. I do think he's clearly better than Alexander Mattison. I think he's clearly better than Dylan Laub. And I think based upon what I heard from their head coach in the offseason, Pierce, is that they want to potentially give Zamir White 200, 300 touches on the season, which will lead to Zamir White being a value at ADP. But in week number one up against the Chargers, I'm not ready to sit here and say Zamir White is a must start or anything like that. Game number 12 here, the Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. The Russell Wilson revenge game matchup, except for Russell Wilson is no longer a Bronco. Broncos country, let's ride. Bo Nix, Big Dick Nix versus the Seattle Seahawks. Kenneth Walker for the Seahawks. This is a A1 steak sauce matchup. This is the kind of matchup, if you have Kenneth Walker, I'm going to sleep at night thinking about this matchup. I'm going to sleep. My fucking mouth is salivating thinking about this. This is an amazing matchup up against the Denver Broncos run defense that got carved up like the Thanksgiving turkey by multiple teams last season, especially my Dolphins. Kenneth Walker has been sucked dry by the coaching staff, by the beat reporters, and you drafted him in the first 5 rounds, most likely the first four rounds, sometimes even the first 3 rounds. So you're definitely going to play him. Great matchup. You drafted him early. You're starting him again. The theme of week 1 is keep it simple, stupid. The KISS method. Heard it a long time ago. I don't remember where I heard it. Maybe it was The Office. Maybe my dad told me. Maybe a teacher told me. I have no fucking idea. But you keep it simple, stupid. You don't want to overthink things heavily in week number 1. Zach Charbonnet, solid running back 2. But with how much the team has been talking up Mr. Walker, you're just going to play Walker and sit Charbonnet. For the Denver Broncos here, the Seattle defense isn't the best against the run based upon what we saw last season. But we also can't just take last season and throw it out and say, this is exactly what's going to happen this season, right? And the on-paper shit sometimes doesn't work. Hey, on paper, there's a great defense, and then they don't gel. Or maybe they gel amazing, and they're a bad defense, and kind of like the Vikings, and the defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, really figures things out. Seattle, they bring in a new coaching staff, so I wouldn't be shocked if the run defense was definitely a lot better. I think Javonte is the clear starter, but Jalil's going to be coming in there as well. He's in that low-end running back 2 range. Definitely think he's better than the other guys below him, but you kind of want to see McLaughlin's workload with Javonte's before I really come on here and give him the full-on Gawk 9000 special. But again, I do like Javonte Williams a ton this week. Next up, we move to the Dallas Cowboys at the Cleveland Browns. Now, Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle are both sits. Both guys I liked in fantasy football drafts due to ADP. I don't believe that Dalvin Cook is even going to play remotely enough of a role for him to matter in this backfield. I think that Rico Dowdle or Zeke will end up being the guy. Reports yesterday pointing towards Dowdle. I've been hyping up Dowdle all offseason, so let's hope that that plays out. Either way, though, we want to see it before we believe it, just like with the Chargers. If I had to start one, right, if something bad's going to happen, if I can't pick the right one, gun to the head, I'm picking Ezekiel Elliott. Why? Because I just feel like the team will lead with Zeke as the guy, right? But I would much, much rather not have to play that game, right? Not have to play the, hey, I think Zeke should be the guy. And I'd rather just back up, and chill out and say, hey, you know what? We're going to just watch this play out. I think Zeke's the guy, but it could be Dowdle. So let's take the back seat and just chill out and watch, get some popcorn, So that's my opinion on this. I'm sitting Zeke and I'm sitting Dowdle. Jerome Ford F-150 is a start. He's close to a top 24 running back for me on the week, not due to the matchup, because this is not a great matchup, but because of the team talking about how he's basically the workhorse back, the clear lead back. I love Jerome Ford in fantasy football drafts. I'm not changing my tune. I'm not going from to fum. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I love Jerome Ford. Now, again, can't really, rank him top 12 or something crazy like that, but I think the team's going to want to run the ball a bunch, right? Deshaun Watson was as suspect as they get last season. I think they want to jam the ball down the throat of the Dallas Cowboys, and I think we see a bunch of Jerome Ford in this matchup. And if he ends up squirming his way on into the end zone, you might end up incredibly excited. Donta Foreman's fine, right? He's a fine backup, but he's no one that should be threatening the workload of Jerome Ford. Next up, we got the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Brian Robinson is a guy that, in reality, I don't really want to start, right? He is like the last case scenario, the worst case scenario. Everything has gone wrong, so you have to start Brian Robinson against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a mid matchup. I think he's the clear lead back on the team, but they also have Eckler. So if they throw the ball to Eckler more, then I think, because I think Robinson's a solid pass catcher, things could go really bad. So again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you got to start Brian Robinson again. He's like the last guy in. Like when you watch March Madness, there's like the last four in. Robinson is literally the last guy in, him and Zach Moss. Rashad White, I don't know why the fuck I just said his name like that. Rashad with two A's, White of the Buccaneers here has an amazing matchup up against the Commanders' run defense. I was lower than most on Rashad White due to the fact that I'm a little bit worried about Dave Canales, former offensive coordinator, becoming the coach of the Carolina Panthers and how that might affect the offensive movement as a whole, like how good the offense is going to be, as well as Rashad White's role inside of the offense. But I still think he's a very talented back. His problem was he was about as efficient as using a fucking Snickers bar wrapper as a condom, okay? So I worry about Canales being gone, but the matchup's so great, you ain't sitting him in this glorious of a matchup. Should be a top 16 running back for sure. Eckler, again, like if you wanted to start Eckler over Brian Robinson, go right ahead. I'd prefer to start neither, though, if I'm being blatantly honest with you. First game for rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, but he might just look to be a check down merchant in this game, get a little bit nervous, feel the shivers, So Eckler could be okay, but again, I just think Eckler's kind of washed. I'd rather just play Brian Robinson. And then we got Bucky Irving, talented running back prospect, but if Rashad White's the guy, you're not going to want to start Bucky Irving, but he is a solid handcuff. Next up, we move to, cause you waited all day for Sunday night, the LA Rams at the Detroit Lions, a battle from the playoffs last year. Sorry, I can't sing. I know people will be like, Nick, you fucking suck at singing. Stop singing. Guess what, buddy? It's my fucking video. I will do what I want, okay? Nick, you're so pretentious. Okay, it's a fucking joke, so don't take anything too serious. Take the advice seriously, but a lot of the off the beaten path comments are just meant to be funny. So Kyren Williams of the Los Angeles Rams. Kyren was on the struggle bus. He was all aboard the struggle bus last season against the Lions in the playoffs. Not a good game. 13 carries for 61 yards, 1 reception for 9 yards. But you didn't draft Kyren in the second round for him to ride the pine, right? We should see a very fun matchup here. This could be a very high-scoring game, and I will be playing Kyren Williams and not even thinking twice about it. He's a must-start, even if the matchup is not the best. Blake Corum should be getting in there too. It's not like Kyren Williams is going to play that insane amount of workload that he saw last season, but I think they're going to backtrack that so that, and insert Blake Corum in there, so that Kyren Williams can stay healthier, not having to touch the ball as much game in and game out, but he's still going to get a whole lot of volume. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are guys that I'm going to have as starts every single week. Jahmyr Gibbs, one of those guys drafted in the first or second round, they're must starts every single week. Jahmyr Gibbs could take a 2-yard dump off. He could dump the Jared Goff could throw the ball 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and I genuinely think Jahmyr Gibbs could juke every single person out like that old school Tecmo Bowl game with Bo Jackson and just run directly into the end zone, right? The guy is shifty. He's a complete and utter beast. Dan Campbell said yesterday that Ifeatu Melifonwu, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, is the only injury concern for the week, which tells us that Jahmyr Gibbs is good to go, barring any setbacks from the hamstring injury. Now, I will be somewhat cautious with saying that his workload is going to be insane in the membrane, right? Because they already have David Montgomery. So the workload might be a little bit lessened. I still like Jahmyr Gibbs as a top 12 back. At minimum, he should be a middling RB2, even if they cut back his workload. David Montgomery is just going to be a running back 2 every single week when Gibbs is healthy. If Gibbs was to go down, he'd be a top 12, top 8, top 6, top 5 running back in my rankings. He's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to potentially see some goal line work. He will see goal line work, and he could score a touchdown or 2 in any given game. And he feels like wrapping a condom around your team because he's probably going to get you around 10 points every single game. Now, is he going to be the reason why you win your league? Maybe, maybe not. But if he scores a touchdown on his normal 10 points and now he has 16 points, you're going to end up very happy. If not, you're getting 10 points and you're fine with it. So Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs definitely starts, as is Kyren Williams. Final game, Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers is back up against the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. Jets at 49ers. Christian McCaffrey. Now, you can suck off the Jets defense all you want. PFF literally had the PFF was sucking the Jets defense like fucking Joey Chestnut sucked down hot dogs up against Kobayashi yesterday. I think he ate like 83 fucking hot dogs, right? The Jets defense is getting sucked from all angles, Bukake style. But as long as Christian McCaffrey is alive, I'm playing him, right? Assuming he's in the game. EA Sports style, which he's on the cover of. Get that one? Yeah, he should play, so I'm playing him. The calf injury is still in limbo. How low can you go? But we really haven't heard too much about it. I'm not worried. If McCaffrey's playing, make sure you play him. If he misses, make sure you pick up Jordan Mason before it's too late. The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? Even if McCaffrey was to go out there with a peg leg, Patchy the Pirate style, I am assuming McCaffrey's going to take a majority of the load, like his name was Asa Akira. If Christian McCaffrey magically misses, you would start Jordan Mason. Breece Hall and the Jets, they've got Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen had a solid preseason. There's a lot of talks out of camp of how great he looks, but we know Breece Hall is the clear lead back on the Jets. This matchup is not ideal. This is not the best matchup, right? You'd want the Jets going up against a much more cupcake matchup as a Breece Hall manager, owner, but we could see a down game here. Maybe the Jets don't end up playing that great. Rodgers coming off the injury, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't matter. If the Jets are getting pile drived here, Breece Hall is going to catch a bunch of passes. If the Jets are winning, he's going to run the ball a bunch. If it's a pretty even game, he's going to get a bunch of touches in the pass catching game and in the rushing game. So there's really no need to worry. If the game goes wrong, he's getting a lot of touches. If the game goes right, he's getting a lot of touches, right? No need to overthink things when it comes to Breece Hall. This is another guy that could easily be the running back 1 on the season, the number 1 overall pick in 2025 fantasy football drafts. So don't overthink things here. Oh my God, the 49ers defense. Don't go crazy. Don't keep yourself up at night. You gotta start Breece Hall. Braylon Allen, again, talented player. Should be getting a couple touches. Might have some crazy runs in some games. He's a guy that could barrel through someone. That'd be cool. But Breece Hall is the guy. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Make sure you guys will leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton if you want to follow me on Twitter or X. Please do so at NotoriousFantasy. If you'd like to check out my rankings for the week, that will be posted in the next couple of days, as well as get an answer to any of the questions you guys may have. Make sure you guys check out the Patreon. I try to answer as many comments down below as possible. But if you're on the Patreon, you're guaranteed to get an answer within 24 hours. So I love you guys guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day, and I'll see you guys a little bit later with the wide receiver version of the start sits of the week. Love you guys. Have a great one. As always, good boy.